Welcome back to Vermont Edition. I'm Jane Lindholm. Earlier this year, Vermont singer-songwriter Anais Mitchell released her latest album, Young Man in America. It's her fourth solo CD and first on her own Wilderland Records label. Mitchell, who is currently living in Brooklyn, is back in the state on a barnstorming tour taking place this week, and she joins us now in the VPR Performance Studio. It's a pleasure to have you, Anais.
Hey, thanks so much, Jane. It's great to be here.
And as you can hear, VPR staffers don't ever want to miss a live performance, so they have gathered here as well to cheer you on. Before we have you play, can you just explain what this barnstorming tour is all about?
Yeah, totally. So I'm doing 4 nights of shows around the state, and they're all taking, the concerts are taking place in barns, mostly on working farms. There's one in Bristol, which is kind of my hometown where I went to high school, one in Bellows Falls, one in Craftsbury, and then one close to here at the Intervale Farm. And each of the concerts is preceded by a dinner, a farm-to-table dinner that the local kind of farms are putting together. And it's sort of like a harvest celebration and a sort of a show of solidarity with Vermont farms, especially after Irene.
We've just been talking about school lunches, and this is also partly a benefit for Farm to School.
Totally. I'm sad that I missed the segment. I was sound checking in here, but it sounds like it's a really interesting topic that's on people's minds and tongues right now. And yeah, we're partnering with the Vermont Community Foundation, I'm so impressed with those guys, and they actually gave me a grant when I first started writing the Hadestown opera, so that I got to know them as kind of an artist organization, and then just they've been so involved in so many different things, beautiful, positive things in Vermont. And it seems like they became kind of the go-to people when Irene hit, when people wanted to donate money. They were the folks who knew how to get it to the people who needed it. And so they're working on a campaign that is basically trying to hook up local farms with the school lunch programs so that kids can eat food that is grown right where they live. And it's such a cool idea for, good for the farms, good for the kids. I'm really excited about it. So we're sort of spreading the word about that. And a portion of the money from these dinners is going to that campaign.
Okay, well, we're hungry for some music, so will you play us a tune?
Sure, yeah. I thought I would play a song that comes from the Hadestown opera that I was just talking about, and I guess I chose it because it has some harvest references in it. So this is called The Wedding Song. Lover, tell me if you can, who's gonna buy the wedding bands? Times being what they are, hard and getting harder all the time. Lover, when I sing my song, all the rivers sing along, and they're gonna break their banks for me, lay their gold around my feet, all the flashing in a pan, all the fashion for your hand. The river gonna give us the wedding bands. Lover, tell me if you're able, who's gonna lay the wedding table? Times being what they are, dark and getting darker all the time. Lover, when I sing my song, all the trees gonna sing along and bend their branches down to me, lay their fruit around my feet, the almond and the apple and the sugar from the maple, and the trees gonna lay the wedding table. La da 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 da. La da 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 da. La da 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 da. Lover, tell me when we'll wed, who's gonna make the wedding bed? Times being what they are, hard and getting harder all the time. Lover, when I sing my song, all the birds gonna sing along, and they come flying round to me, lay their feathers at my feet. We'll lie down in eider down in a pillow neath our heads. The birds gonna make the wedding bed. La da and the trees gonna lay the wedding table. La-da-da. And the river gonna give us the wedding band. La-da-da-da-da.
That was Wedding Song from Anais Mitchell's folk opera Hadestown. Came out in 2010 to a ton of critical acclaim. It really went everywhere and was so well received. I'm wondering now, with a couple years distance from that experience, what it was like for you to blow up that way.
Well, that project was so different from anything else I've ever done. You know, it was a long haul, and it's actually not over. I'll tell you about that in a minute. But of course, the opera started out as this like community theater project in Vermont. It was myself. I wrote the songs, and then my friend Michael Chorney, who is actually going to be playing all these barn shows with me, accompanying on the guitar. Michael and I have worked together for years, and he produced my first couple records, and he wrote the orchestral arrangements for Hadestown for the band that he was leading at the time. And then our friend Ben Matchstick, the director, and we just casted the whole show with our friends from different bands around the state of Vermont. So it was a really grassroots DIY kind of scene, and went through a couple drafts in Vermont before we made that record that you're talking about. And the record, of course, had some pretty big names on it, singing the roles of the characters, and Ani DeFranco and Justin Vernon from Bon Iver, and those guys really, I think, helped to launch this music into the bigger world, and they were kind of the ambassadors of this project that had started out really locally based. And now we're working on the theater show again. It's been a couple of years since the record came out, and we did a lot of touring with it as a concert show, and now we really want to see it again on the stage with the props and the costumes and the full colors. So we're working on that right now, and I don't know when to tell you that'll be ready, but
So Hadestown is something that seems like it has been with you for at least 6 or 7 years now, and will be with you for years into the future.
It keeps going. And, I think if it was just me in my bedroom, I wouldn't have the heart to work on something for this long. But there's been so many people involved at the different stages, and everyone that came to the project really put the wind in our sails again, and kind of brought new blood, new energy to it.
You also have a newer album out that is called Young Man in America, and I'm hoping you could maybe play a tune from that.
Yeah, I'd love to. I'll do a song called Shepherd from that album, and this is another farm song, a little less joyful. Said the shepherd to his wife, the crop of hay is cut and dried. I'll bale it up and bring it in before the coming storm begins. Go, she said, and beat the storm, and then there is another chore. Today the baby will be born. You'll take me to the hospital, said the shepherd, if it's true. 'Twere better if I stayed with you. I'd rather let the harvest go and hasten to the hospital. Nay, she told him, I'll be fine. We both have laboring to do. You do yours and I'll do mine, and the babe will wait till the work is through. The shepherd rode the yellow rose, the clouds above and the field below, until the bales had all been tied. Then homeward turned to find his wife. The sweat was wet upon her brow, her breath that cameth laboredly. And then the rain was coming down upon the field of yellow hay. Said the shepherd, it's no use, the rain will surely win the race. 'Twere better if we let it fall and hurry to the hospital. Go, she said, and work with haste, and bring the bales into the barn, else the crop will go to waste, and the babe will wait till the work is done. The shepherd drove into the storm and to and from the yellow barn, till half the bales were safely in, and went to find his wife again. How many times her name he called, and no replying would she make. Her breath cameth none at all, and she would not rise from where she lay. The storm was o'er within the hour. The shepherd saw the sun come out. The shepherd's wife saw ne'er again. He buried her and the babe within. He turned the seed into the ground. He brought the flock to feed thereon. He held the cleaver and the plow, and the shepherd's work was never done.
That's a pretty hard song to clap to. It's just heartbreaking. And what a devastatingly beautiful but devastating song.
It's, that song is, I can't take credit for the story because it's based on a book that my dad wrote when he was about my age, actually. He had just moved to Vermont, and the book is out of print, but it's called The Souls of Lambs. And that story of the shepherd and his wife it's the very first chapter of the book. It's the backstory of that character. And I always just thought it was such a beautiful and sad story, and because it's really no one's fault what happens, but it's really a moral tale too, and it sort of seemed like it would lend itself to the British ballad style. So that's what that one is.
I want to save time to at least get the flavor of another tune, but before I let you go and play, you've been living in Brooklyn for the past couple of years, but you have plans to move back here. What's the pull to come back home?
Wow, well, this is where I was born and raised, and it's amazing not living here and coming back, and that the feelings are all new again, to see even just the landscape and the people and how people look you in the eye on the street, and just I think really it's a weird combination of the ability to have a lot of solitary time and to feel a lot of stillness, but also real warmth from people. I think that comes from a lot of people that live if you're living kind of in the woods and then you see someone in town, you get very excited. And there's that feeling you can't really replicate in a city.
We've been talking with Anais Mitchell. She's actually in Vermont this week for a barnstorming tour at barns, of course, around the state. And we have a link to all 4 performances in Bristol, Bellows Falls, Craftsbury, and Burlington at vpr.net. Anais, thank you so much for coming in.
Thanks so much for having me.
And will you play us out? We'd love to have one more tune so we can leave with you.
Sure, yeah. I guess I'm going to play the music of the Young Man record to bring us out here.
And that will do it for Vermont Edition today. Tomorrow we'll talk with the Republican candidate for Attorney General, Jack McMullen. He's taken issue with the incumbent over how drug crimes are prosecuted and about the Vermont Yankee case. You can send your questions for McMullen to vermontedition@vpr.net and tune in at noon for that discussion. Thanks today to Chris Albertine and John Billingsley. I'm Jane Lindholm, and we'll let Anais Mitchell play us out.
Yeah.